Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all of my viewers, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to my guest tonight, Shaykh Numaan Chima. How are you, Shaykh Numaan?
Walaikum salam. I'm doing well, my friend. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. So, Shaykh Saab, Maulana Saab, whatever we'll call him, Shaykh Numaan is a very easygoing Shaykh, Alhamdulillah. I've met him one time in my life. I've been blessed enough to meet him one time, at least. But
Blessed.
Alhamdulillah, Sheikh Saab he's a very easygoing and very nice guy. Just being frank and straightforward. Um, and Alhamdulillah, he's currently studying as well. He's studying computer sciences, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
He's Alhamdulillah, he's a graduate of Darul Uloom Madaniya. He's the imam of which masjid is it? I don't remember.
Zubaydah Foundation Masjid. It's in Yardley, Pennsylvania.
Yardley, Pennsylvania. Alhamdulillah. He's also a very avid workoutaholic. He goes to the gym. It seems as though 2 or 3 times a day, and he loves his coffee. Am I right? He loves his coffee. He's an Eagles fan as well. So alhamdulillah. Very pleased to have you tonight. Would you like to let us know anything else about yourself?
No, I think you gave a pretty good intro there.
I see. So the topic we're going to be talking about tonight is relationships and marriage. We're going to be talking about culture and religion. We're going to be talking about keeping it halal. And throughout the course of the day, I was driving for most of the day. I drove about 7 hours today, and I was going through various different lectures and listening to what they have to say about it, like our ulama. And specifically, I think the Shaykh who speaks the most about it is Mufti Mengsab. And, he gets asked a lot of these questions. So we're going to be covering these aspects. And Shaykh Saab, why is this topic so important to talk about?
Well, I think there's a couple of reasons there. Well, the first reason that I think is important is there's not a lot of people that actually talk about this. And the people that talk about this, they're kind of afraid to address some of the taboo issues that exist because they're like, it's the kettle calling, it's the pot black, right? It's sort of that sort of situation where a lot of these issues, they exist within our own communities. So someone can be giving the khutbah, can be giving a whole bayan about it, but if the problem exists in their own family, right, or in their own the community that they work with, it's not going to go the right way. And a lot of times people are they just sort of brush it under the rug. Those are some of the reasons. And I think another reason is there's a lot of denial about this as well. People don't. A lot of people don't even aren't even willing to accept the harsh realities when it comes to these sorts of things, especially in the Muslim community, and especially in the Indo-Pak community. Right?
Definitely.
Our people, they're in next level of denial about these things, and it's not until everything comes, the chickens come home to roost where they start seeing like, what did I do? Where did I go wrong? Like, oh Allah, why are you punishing me? What sin have I committed? Like, so there's a whole bunch of like it's a stew of problems that because of which this doesn't get addressed very much, and because of that, there's so much baggage that comes with it as well, right? You have people, for example, right? You talk about like when you talk about like marriage, right? You have people that are under the guise of religion. They'll be promoting a lot of culture. Okay, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, and then when you specify, oh no, this is Islam just says do this, do this, do this, and you're good to go. And a lot of times people are absolutely stunned at how simple the whole concept of, for example, this concept of Nikkah is. When we perform Nikkahs in our masjid, I typically do like a whole session and everything, and I explain to them, okay, this is how it's gonna go. We have a short khutbah. We do first I'll explain what the method is. We'll do short khutbah, do the ijab, do the qubul, do the dua, bas, call it a day. And people are like, well, what about the signing? What about the ring exchange? What about the pictures? What about the taking the bride's hand and putting it into the the groom's hand? What about
That's a thing.
like, yeah, I'm like, where are you getting this from? They're like, no. The Molvi Saab did it in XYZ country. I'm like, well, I can't speak for them, but the Sunnah method is so simple, and it's the so a lot of because so all those things are considered to be religious. People think that having certain sort of criteria, certain rituals, you could say, having those is part of the religion. It's part of the deen when it's not. And anyone that's studied, an hour of the deen would know it's not. So it sort of hints towards a larger problem, which we could sit here and talk about it all night, about the lack of true education of the deen, and the importance of it amongst the Muslim community. And on top of that, the giving it importance. So we only give importance to the religion when someone is born, right? When someone is getting married, when someone dies. So it becomes problematic. But yeah, so that's why I think it's an important sort of thing. Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. I mean, you shed light on the fact that especially in our communities, we both come from, I believe, Pakistani backgrounds,
Yep.
right? So especially in our communities and our societies, where slandering or backbiting or as people will call it, gossip, thodi baat kar, thodi gal kar rahe. People will say stuff like that, where they're talking about, oh, look at his kid, he's out with this this guy's daughter, and they'll talk about everybody else's kids, but they won't look into their own house and see the problems that are going on. And this is not aimed at anybody, this is just a general statement, and we need to realize the problems that are going on with Sheikh Numaan Sahab clearly and visibly put out there that these are problems which are going on. And then obviously you spoke about in our cultures and societies how marriage has become such a difficult process, where people wait until they're financially sound, or so 35, 36 to get married, and by that point in time, a person's been with so many different partners, so on and so forth. And over the course of the last month or so, we've covered a lot of topics which have been considered taboo by society up until now. But one of the reasons they were considered taboo was because they were hidden. Now all of those things have come out into the open. And they're very open, like all of the things we spoke about: pornography, adultery, family planning, and obviously this relationship. Where in the past, like when I had Mufti Muhammad Jafri, he said that these were not topics that he would normally speak about in front of elders or family members, so on and so forth, because they wouldn't feel comfortable, because those things weren't in the open. They might have been hidden, but they were done in the hidden. But now these things are so open.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. You look at, there's the levels of, like, for example, like pornography and like desensitization when it comes to and the over sexualization of like kids and stuff. It's ridiculous, right? We have these, like, so some of our youth guys, they're like, oh, Imam Sahib, you should make a TikTok, right? And you should give dawah on TikTok. I was like, all right, let me check it out, right? So I downloaded the app, installed it, was on there for maybe a few minutes, and deleted it right away. And not because I'm some sort of holy person or something like that. No, because I felt like I was gonna go to jail looking at some of the things that were popping up. Like you had these like young individuals, shaking everything that could possibly shake around their body for millions of people.
Yeah.
And you have these like, oh,
and
dude,
it's glorified.
It's insane. It's insane.
I had TikTok for maybe 2 minutes. Somebody said you have to make a TikTok for your podcast. I checked it out. I downloaded it. I looked at it. I was like, this is like a continuous loop of haram. I was like, that's it. I can't do this.
Yeah, it's and the problem is, and this is another issue that sort of it indicates towards, is that it's not even looked at as a bad thing. Oh, well, so what? Oh, I'm just there for the stocks, right? Stonks, right? I'm just there for stonk tips. I am just there for this or that. Like, come on, man. Fine, yeah, you may be doing that. Let's say 20%, and that's being generous. 20 or 30% of the time. But the algorithms of these sorts of things are made in such a way where they're going to push you spend, unless you're continuously scrolling, unless and you're only stopping on those things that are, you know, that are fine.
Yeah.
Algorithms are made in such a way that if you stop even for a few seconds, it's going to feed that into your loop,
Yeah.
and more and more and more and more. So now, instead of seeing the out of the 10, let's say you were seeing 5 good things, or
Yeah.
5 things that are okay, whatever. You know, some dude's on a car flipping a bike or something. All right, that's fine. Now slowly that comes down to like 3 or 2, and it's not even looked at as a bad thing. It's like, oh, so what, right? So what? So yeah, it's there's and that feeds in with the relationships as well, because you see all these TikToks and whatnot of like I dream relationships that people are having. Oh, he did this for me, right? That sort of thing going on, and you look at it, you're like, and our young Muslim girls, our young Muslim boys are going to look at it and they're going to be like, oh, I want that. So you go on Muslim Twitter, for example. Okay, Muslim Twitter is filled with this type of stuff. Or you have these like, hijabis from like religious families, posting things like, "Oh, I just wish I had someone I could listen to Tere Liye with," right? Like, right? So they've got this like idea that they're gonna of because marriage is not it's not that glamorous, right? Nikah is not that glamorous. It's not that you're not laying on a door trying to hold on to your lover before he drowns, Titanic style.
Layla Majnun type.
Yeah, it's not like that, right? It's very, very, it's very real. It's very mellow. But these people, our own Muslims, they've got this idea of what they want, and it's just like they're gonna chase it, and they and it's like another example of this. If I'm going on a tangent, forgive me, but one example of this is the show Friends.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, Friends.
I grew up watching that when I was in middle school, some middle school, high school, maybe earlier. Right? It used to come on. I used to come on I used to watch it when we used to be on TV, not for streaming services and stuff. And you think about it, what are the ideas and what is it that it's glorifying, right? The things that it's glorifying is, all right, it's okay to go sleep around, okay? Haha, it's funny actually. Don't give a damn about your family, because friends are forever, right?
Yeah.
Where the reality is very, very far from that. No one's gonna care about you the way your parents, the way your brother, your sister do. You're never gonna find, that sort of idea in real life. But we chase it because that's sort of the criteria that's been set. That's the golden goose that we're running after, and that's the same thing what happens with relationships, right? Oh, well, so what if if I'm dating someone, we're not doing anything haram. What do you mean you're not doing something haram? This is I've been asked this. Oh, is it okay to date someone if we don't do anything haram? So I was like, so what do you do when you're dating? Well, we just talk, we go hang out, we go for lunches and this and that. So I'm like, so what do you do at lunches? Sometimes we hold hands, we hug and this and that. I'm like, and she kept on saying, no, but we're not doing anything haram. We're not doing anything haram. So our definition of what is haram is like, unless there's like actual some sort of act that we're doing, we're like, oh, it's not haram, right? And that's a huge problem. This last Jummah I talked about because it's Rajab, we talked about Tawbah, right? This is the month that you're supposed to do Tawbah, and there's typically 3 conditions that are given to do Tawbah. And I said, no, before we get to that, we added a 4th condition. It was like the 4th and the first condition before all of that is you first have to recognize what a sin is. What is a sayyi'ah, right? What is an ugly deed, right? Our deen, sin is like it has Christian connotations to it. So I don't even like using that word. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to misdeeds or bad deeds as sayyi'ah, because sayyi'ah are ugly deeds. They are a blemish on a person's spiritual self, on a person's heart. So, but the problem is we don't look at the sayyi'ah as being ugly. Our definition of what is ugly and what is beautiful, hasana versus sayyi'ah, is it is so perverted. It's so it has been altered so badly that we don't recognize wrong as wrong anymore. We recognize wrong as being okay, right? Our that level, okay, and it's been going. It gets pushed like the ball gets pushed further down. It feels like every few years, and it's ridiculous. I remember talking about relationships and stuff. I remember when Facebook first started, that was a hot thing to have a relationship on Facebook, right? You would post a nice picture, put a nice banner up, and and that was like a thing.
It's
So I
Facebook
remember,
official.
yeah, yeah, right. And you had people where they were like, they were macking multiple relationships at the same time, right? And it was like a marathon or relationships. I weren't really relationships. And at that time, someone said something very interesting to me. One of my good friends, he was about to get married, and I asked him, I was like, "Oh, did you look her up on Facebook before you married her?" He's like, "I did." He's like, "If she had a Facebook, I wouldn't have married her." And he didn't have one himself. He's like, "If she had a Facebook, I wouldn't have married myself,"
Well,
right? Because that was, what Facebook was primarily being used for.
yeah.
Okay, at that time, this is like 07, 08 sort of thing.
Yeah, that was when it was like exclusive, university students only in certain universities, so on and so
Yeah,
forth.
yeah, yeah. So, but the thing is now, so the thing is that we're not even looking at that. We're not even looking. Our criteria of what is okay good and what is not good anymore is so different now. What is acceptable in terms of relationship and what is not. But yeah, so
So one of the main things is, which I keep hearing and I keep reading, and it's everywhere. Everybody's question is obviously because Friends and all these shows that people watch, and it's not the zamana anymore where you walk into a masjid and you see a baba and you're like, I would like to marry your daughter. That doesn't happen anymore. And then, the 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 institution of
did you
arranged
try that?
marriage is what is that?
Did you try that?
No, I didn't try that. And the institution of even arranged marriage for people is like when you explain it to them, and obviously we have a retail shop, and a lot of people ask me how I got married, and I tell them, and what's it called? They're like, "You never dated her?" It's like, "No." It's like, "How did you guys get married?" It was, "We did." It's like, "Are you guys still married?" "Yeah, we're still married. Alhamdulillah. We're happy, as most couples try to be. And so for them, it's like puzzling, and then they're like, you know what, that might actually work out. We tried it the other way and it didn't work out. So arranged marriage seems archaic for people. So a lot of people ask this question, and this is a repeated question: how can I meet somebody without dating them? He's gonna show a Super Bowl cup, and then
I mean, how can I not? All right. um, it's a very good question. That how can I answer? And it's a question that is not something that is specifically addressable. This is something that has to be addressed at a community level.
Okay.
This is where masajid, this is where imams, this is where parents, the whole community has to sort of lay the foundation of how to proceed and how to do something about this. All right, because right now, if a person is not well connected, they're not going to get married. Right? I know many people. I know several people that are good. They're good Muslims. They have good jobs, right? They are well educated. Everything checks, but they're not well connected. They don't know all the aunties. They don't know all the uncles. They happen to one of the brothers I know. He's an orphan, right? He came here as a refugee, no parents, but very successful. But the problem is he's trying to get married and he still hasn't been able to, because it always they don't have that connection. So because of that, now you have gems like that person that are sort of falling through the cracks and possibly falling into haram. I'm not saying he is, but possibly falling into haram or possibly headed in the wrong direction, simply because we don't have any sort of infrastructure to take care of this. Right now, the way it works is I have to tell my mom or I have to tell my friends, somewhere around those lines, right? Which there's nothing wrong with that, right? But at a larger or at a higher level, right? This is something that has to be taken care of at an institutional level. But from a practical standpoint, from a not future plans, but what you can do today is reach out to those people that you trust. Reach out to those people that you trust, and you know that they have your best interest in their mind. They're not trying to pawn someone off for you that didn't work out elsewhere or something along those lines, right? Not to say that there's anything wrong with marrying someone that is divorced or anything like that, but a lot of times people like to hide things and they'll be like, oh yeah, right. But so first and foremost, reach out to people that you trust. And if you are interested in someone, right, you are interested in some girl on college or wherever you met her, don't play around. Don't fool yourself into thinking, oh, we're just getting to know each other to see if we're compatible or whatever, right? Compatibility is important. Yes, Islam has a whole idea of kufu, of equality, and there's a sense of compatibility that has to exist. But don't get into that trap because what ends up happening is when people try to reach out, oh, we're just talking to each other for the sake of compatibility, it ends up becoming dating. It's essentially dating, right? Yeah, they may take their brother or their sister with them to the coffee, but they're still dating. They're still essentially doing the exact same thing. And then you get emotionally involved. And then when, parents or so when the time comes to make it serious, right? And the parents are like, all right, it's not going to work out. We're not going to move forward for this. Then it becomes a whole, a hot mess because now emotions are involved. People are going to be crying, writing sad songs and whatnot. So it just becomes a whole thing then, right? So the thing is, first thing is you reach out to people, right, that you trust. Very, very first thing. The second thing, okay, is that when you are interested in someone, you don't play around. Set guidelines, right? On a practical and a real sense, right? People, when you're in college, when you're at school, whatever, when you're working with someone and you like them, right? You like her character, or she likes his the way he is, whatever, right? Practically speaking, it's not going to be like, oh, let's talk to our parents first. No, the reality is they're going to talk to each other, and that's as long as you keep it within the bounds of the Sharia and you're not getting carried away with it, fine, okay. But set guidelines. Don't be like, okay, we're gonna just see where this goes. No. We don't do that, because then all sorts of problems happen. Right, so many issues can come up, so many problems. What's it called? It can pop up. So you don't want to be in that situation. Okay, so it's not really a complete answer, right? Because it's gonna really vary from person to person. Right?
It's situational.
It is very situational. For some people, like one of my good friends, I hope she's watching. I hope he doesn't mind me highlighting him a little bit. But one of my friends, what he did was he found someone, and he chose to talk to them. And he asked me, he said, how should I approach them? I was like, well, if you're talking to her online or in person, whatever it is, then just make it very clear that our speaking right now is for the purpose of marriage. That is what we're talking right now. That is why we are trying to figure out whether this is going to work or not. Not because we're trying to screw around and whatnot and just have some fun. No. And he did. And what's interesting is when he mentioned that, because he was a little bit hesitant, like, okay, I don't know how she's going to react to this, right? Because by this point, you still have you're human. You're going to develop some sort of emotional connection. If a girl tells you, I like how you look, you're not going to be like, turn away. You're like, all right, thank you. I like the way you look too, right? Yeah. So he was a little hesitant. So when he reached out to her, she was very accepting of that. Yeah, he's like, yeah, we're not children where we're gonna like screw around and whatnot. Let's be real with this. Let's talk to each other about this on a real basis, not just to mess around. So set boundaries as well. Don't get into that whole trap of, okay, we're just friends, and we just, we go out skiing, we go out doing this, we go out doing that, but we're just friends. Right? Any person that has studied even psychology, I haven't studied psychology. I'm a I'm a STEM guy. I'm a hard sciences and, and math guy, right? But people that study psychology and stuff, they'll tell you this as well, that um, there's the concept of boys and girls, especially if you're attracted to each other,
Yeah.
being just friends. It's foreign. It's not some. It's impractical, right? The most of the time, the guy is either trying to get into the girl's pants or the girl is trying to get into the guy's pants. At some degree, in some point in their, at some level or layer in their mind, they may not even know it that that's what they're trying to do. Okay, but the way that they're responding to them, the way that they're retweeting them, the way that they're talking or liking their tweets, or the way that they're responding to them, right? It's almost like a biological urge that you're headed in that direction. So don't fall into that trap of we're just friends. Um, that's a fool's thinking.
I see. So there's one question, inshallah, we'll cover it. Somebody sent it in the comments. We're going to cover that later on when we get to the marriage part. But there's another comment, and inshallah, I want you to touch on this. Halal dating apps, and then there's this comment right here. I know of a service where they bring interested parties to a supervised setting like a masjid. We tried that at Quba Academy. Quite a few people signed up, but not enough to run the program. So can you shed a little bit of light on this and dating apps? What are some of your thoughts and your understandings on these, options?
Mm-hmm. So the problem with dating apps is, what is the purpose of dating apps, right? Even like Muslim ones, right? What was that one? Minder, right? Minder is one, right?
It's salams now.
Oh, salams now. Okay, yeah. Made it a little bit more halal. That's putting sprinkles on a pile of garbage. Be like, oh look, this is ice cream. But anyways, so what's it called? When it comes to dating apps, the primary purpose of dating apps is hookups.
Yeah,
that's really what it is. All right, anyone that uses those, whether it's Tinder or Muslim Tinder, whether it's Bumble or Muslim Bumble, whatever they are, right? There's so many out now. Their primary purpose is really just hookups. No matter what sort of guys that they're doing it, because and that's the problem, right? And the reason why I can say that with certainty almost is because, even talking from like a statistical standpoint, how many actual marriages take place from these Muslim dating apps? Now, there are Muslim marriage online services that can be useful, right? Because then because they have safeguards set. Right, because you can't see their picture until they approve it. You're not just swiping left, right, left, right, left, right, right. Yeah. Rather, there's I'm not sure of the names of them, but there are some of them that they have some guidelines that are set. There's some protections that are set for both men and women, and to ensure that this is not just some screwing around. Rather, it's actually for the purpose of marriage. So those, they have potential. Right, those, they do have potential, but there's issues with that as well, right? There's so much stigma in our communities about that. If one of my students was telling me about this, that they had found their spouse on an online website, and they brought it to their parents, right? And the parents like the girl, parents like the family, everything is good but they never really bothered. I guess they it just escaped it, but they never really found out how it started from. So when he told them, oh yeah, I found her on XYZ marriage website, parents were like, no, but you like the girl, you like the family, everything is good, but no. So there's a lot of social stigma that's attached to that as well. So that's something that has to be addressed. As for about the Quba Institute, right, or the Quba Academy that you guys tried it with the supervised setting, I think that's a good idea. I think it's an absolutely good idea, as long as it is done in a supervised, and it is done in a way where it stays within the bounds of the Sharia. That's very, very important. I know some. I don't know if I should call them out, but by name, some.
I knew where you were going when you put your hand up like this. I don't know why. So speed dating. You're talking about speed dating.
Speed dating. So there's some. We'll keep it anonymous, right? Yeah. So there are some Muslim organizations that do these like speed dating things, right? And they do it under the guise of it being halal and whatnot.
Anti-supervision.
anti-supervision, but like, I've had like friends that have gone to those,
Yeah.
and they've said that it's like, yeah, fine, they'll do the whole supervise and like swapping the tables and whatnot for like a short period, but then right before and right after, it's just a whole it's just like you're at a like a ball, or like at a gala or something like that. Everyone's dressed nice, everyone smells nice, everyone looks nice, and everyone's just like talking to each other, exchanging phone numbers and whatnot. Right, so that's obviously problematic. The reason why when I going back to that network thing, the reason why I mentioned that earlier is because a lot of Muslim converts have a huge problem. Either you have Muslims that are taking advantage of them, right? Because our especially Desi people, right? Our Desi culture, we're obsessed with Gore. We're obsessed with people that are Caucasian, right? So if someone becomes a Muslim, right, our that colonial embedding that the British did to us and our forefathers for those hundreds of years, it still hasn't left us,
Yeah.
right? So when we see them, we're automatically, inclined, like, okay, well, I'm interested. And a lot of times, good. It starts out well intentioned, but people end up taking advantage, right? Because they're not able to understand the difficulty that a convert or a revert is in with their families. Some families are very, very accepting and they're very good, but most of them, not most, but many aren't. Many are, so they become they get trapped and they don't know what to do. So they have no one to go to. So if they want to get married, they have okay, either I risk it, okay, and possibly get taken advantage of, or I try my hand at one of those dating what's it called, web apps or whatnot, which once again is problematic. So it becomes a problem. So this has to be addressed at both at an institutional and an infrastructure level, right, for communities and whatnot, and as well as at an individual and a societal level. Our own communities, we very rarely venture outside of our little circles for marriage,
Yeah.
right?
You're right.
Whether that's culture, whether that's country, whether that's region, whether that's gaon, the village, right?
I was actually in a car with a younger guy, and he was driving me around, and what's it called? I was needing to go pick up some equipment, and he took me, and I was joking with him that tonight we're talking about relationships and marriage, and I
Mhm,
told him, I was like, look, the restrictions go like this. Like, first of all, she has to be, she has to be Muslim. Okay. Then you're like, okay, I found a Muslim girl. No, then she has to be Pakistani. Okay, I found a Pakistani girl. Then she has to be from your cultural background, meaning subculture. Like, for example, I'm Gujarati. She has to be Gujarati.
mhm,
Okay, then when she's Gujarati, okay, I found one. I found one. Then she has to be from the same gaon we're from. Oh, Balishwar. Okay.
mhm,
Now we have to know her grandparents.
mhm.
And what's it called? And your grandparents should have had to know her grandparents for you to get married. When it comes to that point, at that point in time, the guy's already lost the battle.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's it's ridiculous. Some of these restrictions that are put with people that are like, they're attending all the halaqas. They're the ones sitting right in the front stuff, and they're the ones that are saying the Subhanallah the loudest, Subhanallah, right, when the Imam says something good, right? But when it comes to their God forbid, someone from Karachi brings like
Punjabi.
Pashtun sister home or
Pashtun
something like
sisters.
that, and it's like, whew, it's like إذا زلزلت الأرض زلزالها. It's like the world is shaking, right? And it's ridiculous. It's
I see.
ridiculous.
So just if you can brief, I'll just show you this comment. It says, "Yeah, Sheikh, social media platforms have wrecked more than a few marriages these days. Speaking from experience, may Allah Ta'ala protect us all."
I
So I mean,
mean,
you shed some light on the whole social media aspect of it.
yeah.
But so one thing, obviously, this is a question which I got. A lot of guys or girls, they end up in a relationship with somebody. Okay, the girl might be Muslim, the guy might be Muslim. They end up in a relationship. They may end up doing a lot of haram things, but at a certain point, they realize, well, we should stop this and we should get married. And the question basically was, what should we do? Should we get married? Should we move on and find somebody who's better than us? What should we do in that situation?
The thing is that the romantic in me is gonna be like, get married, drive off into the sunset, right? But that's not practical. That's not
Yeah.
real. That's it's fine, you'll be happy for maybe a couple months, maybe a couple of years. But if your parents and your family is not good with it, right, and for legitimate reasons, and it's not like you're the last boy, bachelor and bachelorette left on the world now, right? The thing about marriage is nikah is not just something that is between two people. There's nikah, and when nikah happens, this is a merging. Essentially, it's a merging of two families. So there's a lot that has to be taken into consideration. So Islam, our deen teaches us this as well, that you have to have some level of compatibility when it comes to wealth, right? When it comes to beauty, right? You're not, and like for like wealth wise, it's ill advised for someone that is not financially stable to marry someone that's very, very wealthy, because there's a power dynamic there. Similarly, it's not advised for someone that is not the best looking, right, to marry the most gorgeous person that they find, because once again, the one person might feel like they're reaching, the other person feel like they're settling, and they're going way beneath their league. So those things have to be taken into consideration, because what is the purpose of nikah? Right? The purpose of nikah in Islam is not wham bam thank you man, right? The purpose of nikah is for it to remain a nikah, for it to remain a marriage throughout your life. It's not so that get married, move on, get married, divorce, move on. That's not the purpose. The purpose is to keep a thing. This is why talaq, right, divorce is considered to be the most disliked halal action in the sight of Allah. It's the abghadul halal. That's the most disliked halal action in the sight of Allah, because it's there as a, if you are absolutely, there's no other way, then yes, it's there as a means of release for both parts. Talaq for the man, khula for the woman. But the purpose is, that's not the purpose, right? So Islam has set these safeguards, and Islam has set, and this is the beauty of our religion. Our religion addresses problems at the root level. It doesn't address it at the leaves, right? It's not because you're going to be you're trying to get one, the other's going to fall. So rather, it goes to the root. So Islam says that the nikah, a marriage, it should be done in a way that is grounded in such a way that it is going to flourish and become a tree. It's not just going to sprout a little thing and then die. So as harsh as it may be, right, in the beginning, for first couple of weeks, couple of days, couple of months, maybe, it's best to go somewhere, best to go with someone that is suitable for both you and not they're suitable for your family as well. Now, if the family has unreasonable demands, like, oh, she's too dark skinned, that's an illegitimate concern. Then yeah, you can sort of brush it to the side a bit. Or if it's like, she's she's not from she's from here, we wanted her to be from here, those sorts of things, right? But other things that especially this is where I always get trapped, and like it's such a difficult position for young boys and girls and Muslims to be in. They've dated someone, they've done all sorts of things with each other. They're invested in each other financially, possibly, emotionally for sure, possibly physically, right? And they're so entangled with each other that to tell them, okay, you guys have to separate, it's almost cruel. It almost sounds cruel. That's why Islam says don't even get into that position to begin with, right? But those sorts of relationships that begin in haram, the roots are rotten. The roots are rotten, so you can't expect the tree to flourish. It's not going to. It may flourish for a little while, but the chances of it flourishing for the long term are low. I've dealt with so many of these situations. I've had some good friends that have been in those situations where they fell in love with a girl, they dated for a while. Parents said no. Her parents said no. They're like, fine, screw it, we'll get married. Got married, moved to a different state. We're happy. for a while. Then um, things started to get a little bumpy, and then you know things broke. And when they broke in a nasty way, in a very nasty way. And it's not just one anecdote. These are things that are happening so often now. The amount of um, divorces and the amount of divorce counseling and whatnot that's occurring is just phenomenal, and phenomenal in the sense that the numbers are just staggering, keep on getting higher and higher and higher and higher. And where do you think this starts from? The happiest marriages are those that are grounded in the Sunnah, that are grounded in the Sharia, and there's a reason because for that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts barakah in there. That's our aqidah. That's our belief that the rules of the Sharia and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not just complimentary. That, oh yeah, if I feel like it. No, it has tangible effects. It has tangible results that we can witness in our own lifetimes. But a lot of us, and this is going back to that first thing that we talked about. This is when we made the religion more ritualistic. That's the problem. Yeah. Where the religion, you only go to the Shaykh, right, when someone's born, right, when someone is getting married, and when someone dies. How often people are getting called in? Oh, someone was born. Can you please give the adhan in the ear? Why don't you give the adhan? The father, why don't you give the adhan? Sorry, Shaykh, I don't know how to give the adhan. Yeah. So do you mind if I just play it from my phone? It's like, no, I'll come. Right? It's such a basic fact to give the adhan, and they don't know how to they don't know how to do that. So these are things that these are infrastructural and institutional failures of the Muslim community and the Muslim society at large, especially in America. Okay. So it's not you can't even a lot of these kids, you can't even blame them. The parents send their kid off to go live in a foreign state for 4 years to study, right? He sees Laiba walking around in the hallway looking good. What is he gonna do? Right? He sees all his friends have girlfriends, and when they go out to hang out, all of them go out with their girls and whatnot. Do you not think that this 18, 19-year-old kid is going to be like, I want one too? Or he's going to be like, no. Right? Most of them be like, I want one too. Yeah. Right? And then people are going to bug out. Like, oh my God, my kid brought home, XYZ person. Like, yeah, you sent them off. What did you expect to happen? This is so a lot of these things are very multi-layered. You've seen Shrek, right? Shrek says ogres are like onions, right? There's layers to them. Right? So these problems are like those onions. There's so many layers to them. There's so many different issues that are all wrapped into one.
So what's it called? One of the funny things, and I mentioned it in another podcast episode, is when I went for Hifz to Pakistan, my mother was told by a few people, like, "Aapka kaise dil hai ki aapne apne bete ko itna dur bhej diya?" Basically in English, what kind of a heart do you have that you sent your son so far away? So she asked those people the same question: what kind of a heart do you have to send your children away to a foreign institution where you're not there and there's nobody to guide them? How do you have the heart to do that? She's like, at least I know where my son is and who he's hanging out with. She's like, do you know who your kids are hanging out with? So, it begs, the question begs that people are so easily convinced that, yeah, my kid needs such a high level education that they'll send them there. But are they consistently watching out for their morals? And is it even possible? But before we jump into the marriage section, there was another, I'll put two questions together. It basically goes along the lines of, a lot of times guys get involved. I know girls do too, but more so guys get involved in relationships with females, may they be non-Muslim more so than Muslim. And what ends up happening is they end up with either sexual experience, so on and so forth. And it's a study, even according to Christians, that this was sent by a sister to me, that even according to Christians, that men generally have more sexual experience, and this is also saying from Muslim men, than the women do. And how does this negatively affect the relationship where the guys are just basically screwing around? They're like, yeah, I know my parents are going to arrange my marriage, but up until then, I'm gonna keep screwing around. And then when I
Mhm.
get married, sometimes what ends up happening is it's like a drug. They can't stop. So they'll have the bichari at home. She'll be sitting at home and they're out with some gori or something like that. So what 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 is the problem? How can we fix this? Or is there even a solution that you can suggest?
Chastity belts. I'm just no. Uh, this is a problem of most parents think their sons are very innocent. That's where this comes from.
Farishte.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Not my laddu, right? No, no, no. My laddu would never do something like that. But the reality is, there are kids out there doing all sorts of things, right? And the kids know these things, right? And but the parents, most no, you will never hear a parent be as worried about their son as they are worried about their daughters, right? But that's also a cultural and pseudo like Islamic thing as well, right? Our Deen describes our sisters and our daughters and stuff as being those that have been raised in in a very comfortable environment, and we obviously want to do that. And we want to protect them in every way. But the thing is, one of those ways to protect our daughters and stuff is to raise better sons, right? We are a lot of times our focus when we comes to talking about raising kids is, oh, how do I protect my daughter? How do I make sure my daughter does this? How do I make sure my daughter doesn't do that? How do I make sure my daughter wears hijab? How do I make sure my daughter does that? Like, what about your son who's out there selling dime bags on outside of Taraweeh, right? And that's not a far-fetched reality, right? I've seen it happen with my own eyes, right? But no, no, no. My Tinku is amazing, right? He's a farista. So the first, I think, one of the biggest issues of why that's happening is because we fail to raise our sons to be true men, right? Because a lot of times, even the people that are raising them, right, we don't we may not even understand the concept of masculinity, of what it means to be a man according to in Islam, in our religion. Man is not being stern and walking around with a stick and hitting everyone, be like, listen to me, right? With the and the stick says "Ar-rijalu qawwamuna 'ala nisa," right? That's not what being a man is. That's not what masculinity is. Masculinity is being very aware of your responsibilities. The Sharia demands of you, not just the Sharia, but what the society demands of you. So when we as men fail to raise men, right, we raise boys and they remain boys their whole lives, okay, then that's a problem. That becomes a huge problem because you have girls that become women, but the boys remain boys. Right, so all the screwing around that they were doing at 16, 17, 18, 19, they're doing at 40, 41, 42. So and the thing is, this makes marriage much more difficult because people will go off, okay, my so and so friend, I'm marrying my daughter off to my so and so friend's son
Yeah.
because I know him, I know my friend, I know he's a good person, I know his wife, they're good people, they're right. But they don't understand and they don't realize that the son is at the mangni, right? He's at the engagement earlier in the day, and then by nighttime he's swiping right on Tinder.
Yeah.
That's a real scenario that I dealt with very recently. Okay, and the way that guy got caught is because of one of those apps. He got matched with one of the cousins of his fiance, and so, but the real but the thing is, the parents denied it. Like, no, he's making it up. You guys are making it up. My son doesn't do that. Look, I checked his phone. There's no Minder on there. There's no Tinder on there. Right? So it's a system, once again, systematic failure. Systematic failure of it's boys. Men are not raising boys to be men. They're raising boys to become boys. Then the boys are raising boys, and it just remains children. Right? You have 50-year-old children. They never mature. They never, because and the problem is that a lot of times because we baby them so much, right? Especially our boys. We baby them so. With girls, the mothers usually are a little bit more stern. Okay, you need to learn how to do this. You'll be responsible for a household to some degree at some point in your life. So you need to be able to take care of these XYZ things. Okay, I'm sure some feminist is triggered right now, but that's the reality of it. All right.
I'm not famous enough to reach out to them yet. Alhamdulillah.
Oh yeah. I'm send a tweet. I'm joking. But but the thing is, with boys, it's like the first bump that they hit in their life, the mom is there to, to catch them. Don't worry, beta, we're always here for you. So they never learn how to, get hurt. They never learn how to develop themselves emotionally. So their mind remains that little bacha that I can just go to my mama whenever something bad happens, and that's why they screw around, because they know this in the back of their heads. My mom and my dad are gonna get me married to someone, regardless. If she's not from here, she'll bring some poor bitch. They'll bring some poor bichari from overseas.
Yeah, from the
Right?
go.
Right. They'll FedEx someone here, and they'll be like, okay, here you go. And she might be an innocent bichari, amazing girl, innocent, intelligent, can much more masculine and responsible than this dude. And she bichari, her whole life gets ruined because she got matched up because
As,
of like puppo ki
as
beti
we
or
say in
whatever.
Urdu, zindagi kharab kar di bichari ki.
Yeah, absolutely. You just ruined that poor girl's life because mom
Your,
never.
your kid couldn't get done screwing around.
Yeah, yeah. And
So
that's a huge thing when it comes to marriage. We have to stop shipping people in. All right. If your kid is not good enough for the boys and the girls here, all right, then fix your kid. Don't ship some poor bichare from overseas, from your gaon or from your village, to ruin their life.
yeah.
Right? Fix your kid. Tell them to straighten up a little bit rather than saying, no, my kid is perfect. He's a farishta. She's a farishta. Right? There's a problem somewhere else. And most of the time, what is it that we see? We don't see guys getting shipped out from Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Egypt, and whatnot. It's girls.
Yeah.
It's girls get shipped. Why? The questioner is a great question. It's because the guys are screwing around. Everyone in the community knows that kid's an F boy. All right. So we're not gonna get our kids married to them. And then the news spreads, and anyone that's interested looks even slightly into that family. And they find out, oh, this dude. Mm-mm. So they're like, all right, all that's failed. Let's get someone from Jordan to come and marry and fix our kid. We
Yep.
ruin their life.
I see. So we're gonna switch over and jump over into the marriage section.
Mhm.
I hope I'm not holding you too long. I
No,
think
you're fine. You're fine.
okay.
I was painting my bathroom right before this. So
He's taking care of his domestic duties for the day. So let's jump into the marriage section. So Bismillah. So there's a few things. Obviously, this is gonna go along the lines of asking about. We're gonna start at engagements, and one of the things is people who are religious but given the cultural practices during the wedding process and engagements. Desi culture and other cultures make this marriage without nikah, where guys and girls go out without any adult supervision. We did cover this with Mufti Yusuf Saab, who is, I believe, he was a classmate. He was a classmate of yours, or he was behind you a year.
he was classmate and roommate and
Acha.
jigdi dost. Right?
Acha.
Yeah.
But what's it called? We covered this with Mufti Yusuf as well about being in a circle where people bring their fiancés. But more so, this whole process and this whole ideology of by TK, mangni ho gayi. Engagement is done. Now they can go wherever they want. And I've only seen it with my own eyes multiple times where people are okay once the engagement is done, like it's some sort of holy nikah is done beyond nikah, and the girl and the guy are going out on a date to have lunch and dinner. And I'm like, are they going out? And they're like, yeah, they're mangni ho gayi na. What, they're engaged. What is your problem? And I'm just asking, like, really, this is okay for me? That was a foreign concept. And because I grew up, I'm not gonna say like Yusuf. You can ask Yusuf. I grew up in a pretty, strict household, and I'm like, I'm looking at this as a 21 or 22-year-old, if I'm not mistaken. I'm like, really, this is okay? And so what this whole engagement process, and then I'm gonna add in this question right here, so it's all gonna go together. Loving the conversation so far. I have. Is why do you think marriage is so difficult in today's age? Is it unrealistic expectations? So let's start off an engagement. What is the problem with the engagement process in the Desi culture?
So engagements. So the thing is, engagements are supposed to serve what purpose? Let's first understand that engagements are supposed to serve the purpose of reserved,
Baat pakki
right?
ho gayi.
Right, it's just reserved, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now, right, the stamp is there now. We are eventually going to get married. That's the purpose of engagement. Okay. In our cultures, and this is not something that's exclusive to our culture as well. By
Yeah.
the way, this goes pretty much all across the Muslim world.
Yeah.
Except I've seen in some Syrian families that they don't do this, but or some of the some of the religious Arab families,
Yeah.
what they do is at the engagement they'll do the nikah as well, right? So they're like, yeah, now you can go out and whatnot, but they won't live together until way later. Okay,
Yeah.
but so the engagement is supposed to serve as a purpose. Its purpose is supposed to be, all right, now you've been stamped as reserved that you two are going to get married now, barring any unforeseen circumstances. Okay, so that's all it's supposed to be, and nothing beyond that. What we've turned it into being is we've made it equivalent to nikah. We made it equivalent to nikah, whereas Shara'an speaking, from a religious standpoint, there's the engagement means nothing. Okay, I'll give you an example. I got engaged. I forget when it was, but I got engaged sometime in January. I remember I was taking exams when it happened. I wasn't even there, by the way. So I got engaged. I was taking exams. So I just remember my mom calling me and she's like, "Oh yeah, you got engaged." I'm like, "Oh, cool, cool. Yeah, I gotta go study. I have an exam tomorrow." Okay. So because I was like, well, what does it mean? What does that mean for me? Okay, now, yeah, we will get married. So yeah, you're happy about that, and that you should be happy about it. But does it give me any sort of rights beyond that? No. Can I talk to her openly? No. Can I look at her openly? No. Can I go out with her openly? No. So what does it do? The problem is, once again, our failure of understanding the tenets of Islam, the religion of Islam, of how what does a religion even say about these things? Right? What does our religion dictate when it comes to marriage? Right? Also, all these sorts of things. So, that's something that has to be addressed, and once again, that has to be addressed at a community level. People need to take these classes and understand that engagement means nothing. Okay, you taking cute pictures of holding each other in engagement, that's you're just injecting haram into your own
The whole process.
the whole process, the whole beginning of your new life, essentially.
What you said,
Right?
roots.
Yeah, the roots of it. You're chopping away at the roots that way. Okay, so that's one thing. The second thing about why marriage is so difficult is it because of unrealistic expectations? I think it's a multitude of things. One is unrealistic expectations, and different cultures have different expectations. Some of the Arab cultures, they want very large mahars, but they will be willing to get married early. Okay, that's one very good thing about them, that they will be like, okay, if she's 18, 19, all right, get and everything's good, they'll get them married. But they do have the meher issue, where not all of them, some of them, where they'll demand very high mehers, so that can prevent
Divorce.
nikahs from that can prevent nikahs from even happening.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one thing. Amongst the Desi culture, it is definitely high expectations, very high expectations on all different aspects. Everyone wants higher expectations from the other party, not from their own.
Yeah.
Right. The mom doesn't want their kid to be super great. No, they want their bahu, their daughter-in-law or their son-in-law that's coming into this marriage, to be perfect, right? To be the golden child, while their kid is, lighting up a joint after Tarawih or something, right? That's the reality of it. So
You got these Tarawi lighting up jokes. So
no, Hamda, we don't have that problem at our masjid.
he's like, let me be clear about this.
Yeah, as far as I know. But back in the days when when we would spend more time outside than inside doing tarawih, those are the days.
But you were telling about the expectations, and now one of these things is obviously this is a masla where people during the course of marriage, people ask for what's it called, jahez. In Urdu we call it jahez, where people will be like, when the girl comes, she has to bring her own furniture, she has to bring all of these things which are un-Islamic. Obviously that goes all into it.
Yeah, yeah. That's alhamdulillah. That's something I've started to see dying off, especially in
Alhamdulillah.
the Muslim American community. Right,
Alhamdulillah.
in the Muslim American community, you see that dying off now because um, it's almost I don't know if it's dying off for a good reason or a bad reason, but it seems to be sort of on its last leg, especially here. So that's something that's good. So we recognize good, but the not just about unrealistic expectations. All right, the other issue is we make things very difficult. Right, we make it so ritualized. Right, you have to have this, you have to have that, you have to have that. Right? You have to have a hall, you have to have this many amount of people, you have to have this many dishes, you have to have this many people come, you have to have all sorts of things that are completely unnecessary. If you're able to do all that, stay within the bounds of the Sharia, alhamdulillah, great. May Allah bless your nikah and everything with it. Okay, and I've seen those. I've seen marriages and like ceremonies that are very, very nice. Like I'll be like, shoot, I want to take some of this food home. Right? But and they kept everything within the bounds of the Sharia. Okay, great, alhamdulillah. But now don't make that a reason to stop people from getting married. Like no, until you are able to afford that hall that is that so and so's son got married in. Okay, or that that's the hall that we want. We have a vision of our kids getting married in. You can't get married. Okay, well then the problem happens is that these guys, right? These guys and girls, right? They're like, fine, screw marriage. We'll just do whatever we want to do without it. And when we're able to get married, we'll just get married. Yep. So either they'll do like a khufya nikah, they all do like a down low nikah, which is by the way not permissible. Down low nikahs are no bueno, right? I mean that doesn't mean that the nikahs don't happen. I mean it's not that they're the nikah is still valid. It's just a haram act because it's something that's prohibited because the nikah is supposed to be something that's open, right? Yeah. But that's besides the point. So either they'll do that or they'll just backseat of the car sort of thing, and that is the reality of it, right? And they'll do all sorts of things. Then when the parents find out, they're like, "Oh, how dare you? How could you? Like, you guys did this," and a lot of it's the parents' faults. Yeah. Okay, it's either keeping up with the Joneses, right? Where they're just like, okay, no, we have to keep up appearances. I know families that are financially struggling month to month, right? Extremely hard, but they'll throw these lavish parties. They'll take out loans to throw parties, right? People within the family who know the situation be like, have you lost your mind? Like, why are you doing this? Like, no, right? We do this every year, right? Yeah, we do this every year. Yeah. Well, people aren't that desperate to come eat chicken tikka at your house that you need to go into debt, and not just debt, right? But unnecessary debt. So it becomes a problem. So keeping up with the Joneses becomes a huge issue when it comes to marriage and stuff. So a lot of our parents, they don't realize this, that you're not helping anyone by doing this. You're not helping anyone by doing this. You are not, and then there's another byproduct of all of this as well, is that the kids think all this is Islamic, right? Having a nice hall, doing all these things are part of Islam because they never learned it. So they don't know the differentiation between culture and Islam. So they think that all this is part of Islam. So then they're like, we don't want this garbage in our families. So they just cut it all out. Yeah. Right. And then they're raising their kids, be like, oh yeah, you want, all right, my son Zaid, meet his friend Rachel. Okay. And they're coming to their houses. Like, oh yeah, look, they're coming to their houses. They're just chemistry partners. They're lab partners. What kind of chemistry are we talking about here? Right? I don't think this is talking about covalent bonds, right? There's other bonds that we're referring to. So so you see there's multiple issues that are happening over here. There's unrealistic expectations from the parents.
Yeah.
There's unrealistic expectations from the other side. There's unrealistic or mixing of culture and religion. Okay, people are like, no, 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 Molvi Saab said it, or we do it like this in our home,
Yeah.
or in our where we come from, right? And religious people will fall under this.
Well, I mean, what we have in Desi culture, we'll have a mangni, then they'll have a mehendi, then they'll have ladko wali mehendi, then they'll have a barat, and then they'll have a walima. And then, you have your family parties. But taking out the engagement in the mangni, you have two mehendis where the guys and the girls meet beforehand anyway. And then you have a nikah, and then you have a barat, and then you have a walima. Barat, the girl's family pays for, which, if my understanding is correct, is not even a real thing. Like our ulama will say that's not even jaiz, that the girl's family isn't supposed to throw a party.
The thing is that if they want to throw a party for themselves, for their family, fine. Okay.
Yeah.
No biggie.
Yeah.
But our culture dictates that there's certain things that the girl's family has to do, and there's certain things that the guy's family has to do. Like, I'll give you an example. So I'm from a Punjabi background, right? And like my family back home, like Punjabi, they're like the Punjabis, right? Like the ones that when we make fun of, those are those, that type, right? But so like one of the
They
cultural,
have like the heavy breakfast and everything.
I mean, those are the good things. So we take the good, we leave the bad, right? I'll never say no to a paratha, right?
Exactly.
I would like to say paronta,
But
right? So, but like one of those cultural things is that the father or the guy's side does not attend the walima of of a girl from their family. So if a girl gets married, so let's say my daughter gets married, okay, it would not be okay for me to go to her walima.
That's weird.
It's weird, right? It's so weird. I remember when my sister got married and we went to her walima, people were like looking at us like,
you guys are being scandalous, bro. Stop it.
You uncultured swine. Like, what? Like, relax.
Was this after you were done with the alim course?
I was in alim course at the time.
You were in alim course.
So, when you're in alim course, you're a lot more hyped.
Yeah, Jalali.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I was in Thania at the time.
Oh, okay.
In the second year. So but so these sorts of things, they obviously they cause problems within the marriage. So they cause problems before the marriage, they cause problems within the marriage, and then they cause the byproduct is people are like, I don't want this garbage in my family, so I'm just going to cut it all out. What is this associated with? The masjid. This is associated with Sunday school, maktab, all that pushed out of the window. Who is responsible for all that? The parents.
Yeah.
The people that are raising those little boys who are 40-year-old boys.
Yeah.
Those parents.
You're
and
right.
people, our own people, they'll be very upset when we say these sorts of things.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it is what it is. Like I said, a lot of the things we talked about, we've touched a little bit on, but you went into more detail because this was our topic tonight. And I tried to get Maulana Numaan or Shaykh Numaan asked me second or third weekend. I had a guest beforehand for the second weekend, and I tried to switch him at the last minute, but he was like, "Let me be Rahimdil, and I won't mess with people's Valentine." Because I was trying to get him to come on the 13th to talk about this. He said, "I don't want to mess up people's Valentine's Day."
No, you
but
have to right? You have to be a compassionate imam, right?
but so there's a question here, but I'm gonna read the whole question somebody else sent me. So this is a common sentiment. I think they should have marriage class before marriage, but there's a sister, she sent me this. What are your thoughts on premarital counseling? I personally feel we should focus more on the prevention plan than the reconciliation. Once so much pain, anger, abuse, trauma has happened, it's like a limb on your body with cancer. To save the body, you have to lose the limb, and by then divorce is necessary. So, premarital counseling, what is your opinion on it, and how should it be done?
That's first and foremost, whoever the questioner, that's the analogy there is on point, right? Because that's exactly what it ends up becoming. As for premarital counseling, at my masjid, if someone wants to get the nikah done here or by me, they have to have premarital counseling.
Alhamdulillah.
We mandate it, and not from like a because of like a shari'i reason. Rather, it's because a lot of times people don't understand what marriage even means. They don't understand what are the demands of marriage. Like you ask them, hey, what are you guys' goals in terms of Islamic education for your children? Okay, and they'll be like, don't know. Right? I was like, and yeah, one time one of the guys, Allah bless his heart, he's a great kid. He gave me a very like straightforward answer. He's like, to be honest, Shaykh, I haven't thought about after the nikah night. Right? I haven't thought past that. All right, bro. So, so you see they a lot of times they're not on the same page, right? They don't have the same understanding of what if there's issues? How do we do some sort of reconciliation? Who do we go to? And that becomes a big problem as well. That a lot of times they can't go to their parents, and maybe they even shouldn't go to their parents.
Yeah.
Because it becomes problematic, and that's something I'll add over here as well. Parents should stay the heck out of their kids' marriages. I have seen so many marriages get broken apart because of parents. Right? Parents will be like, we'll say something. They'll do something that is just completely off the cuff, and it'll completely ruin the whole vibe that the new bride and groom, right? That they're having a good time. They're in their honeymoon phase, right? And just completely ruin it. And that's a huge problem. But that stems from that same thing as well, not having that pre-marriage counseling, not being even familiar with the idea of counseling, where because the guy's going to be like, if we have a problem, we're going to go to my mom.
Yeah.
Right? Most guys are going to say that. I'm going to go to my mom. She'd be like, no, I don't want to go to your mom. I want to go to my mom or my dad.
Yeah.
Like, no. So now this is the problem. Right? So when it happens, they're going to be going to their own prospective people, and the other people are going to be like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. They're going to be like, they're yes men.
Yeah.
Right? And then they're going to be like, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Right? Oh, yeah. You know why she's like that? Uska baap aise hai, right? Her dad is like that. Right?
Yeah.
And then it becomes a whole big mess.
Yeah.
Okay. So pre-marriage counseling and like actual one, not just like, phony, like, how do you guys good, ready, right? No, real, actual counseling, like where you're discussing real things.
I think not to cut you off, Sheikh, but I think the main thing is the guy, the Sheikh, or the person who is qualified to give the counseling has to understand local marriage practices, understand local culture, and understand the dynamics of being married in America to be able to give proper ideas and proper solutions. And I think some of that also goes back to, like, obviously I studied hives, and what's it called when I was in Pakistan. I studied in Pakistan as well, and when we were with our ustad, we would have a different sort of relationship or different sort of understanding. And a lot of times when you bring the ustad from overseas to here, or the imams they bring from overseas, the bicharas, they don't really understand the culture. They're still coming from that back home mindset, and you see the difference. Like, I studied there, I studied here, and that relationship. And then now you see the younger ulama and the younger hufaz, the teachers, now that they're teaching, they have the connection with the students, like you see back home in Pakistan that the teachers had with their students, where the khidmat was being done, so on and so forth. Similarly over here, if you have somebody in an imam capacity or in an official capacity trying to provide premarital counseling, but he doesn't understand the dynamics of local culture and how local marriages work, I don't think it's like taking a medicine for constipation when you have a cough.
I completely agree. Right? So that's why I said meaningful counseling. So in order for it to be meaningful, there's two aspects to it. Number one, the person has to be qualified. Not just every schmo can do counseling, right? And a lot of those scenarios, when I'm not, if it's the very basic, I'll handle it. But if it's anything beyond that, I'm not trained in that, so I don't know how to do it. So I will like direct them in the right way. And there's a lot of good places that do this. Like for example, what's that place called? Forgetting the name right now, but they do a lot of these counselings, right? And they take care of it. And I've sent them and they do it at a very, very reasonable price, at very reasonable rates, right? And like I know personally, I know psychologists and whatnot that'll take care of this. So it has to be meaningful, meaning the person has to be qualified to do it, number one. And number two, that the actual counseling has to be done in a way where it actually pokes and it prods a little bit, makes you a little bit uncomfortable, makes you think about, okay, what's it called? It makes you think about, okay, what's going on, right? Have these people really thought about these things, right? So if it's just like, then it's useless, and that's what's happening with a lot of masajid. Well, masajid be like, oh yeah, we heard so and so masjid does it. We want pre-marriage counseling, so they'll ask the Shaykh Saab, all right, you gotta do pre-marriage counseling. Shaykh Saab's like, deer in headlights. Okay, he's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. But he'll be like, okay, I'll do it. So when the people come, they're like, Shaykh Saab, we want marriage counseling. Shaykh Saab be like, okay, are you happy? Yes. Are you happy? Yes. Were you forced? No. Were you forced? No. Okay. That's not counseling. That's not counseling. That's not, and you're not doing anything there, but people are very proud. Like, oh, look at, put it on their website. Yes, we do pre-marriage counseling. Alhamdulillah.
Over 250 sessions.
Sorry, say that again?
I said over 250 productive sessions.
Yeah. Yeah. Over 250 productive sessions other sessions are like those. So what I typically do is I have a whole list of questions that I send them.
Yeah.
Right. It's a list. It's a very extensive list as well. Right. Where I say you both need to independently think about this, and then possibly think about how you're going to answer these questions. Right. And I was like, and if any of those questions you're unsure about, right then and there, I tell them, all right, you need to talk to someone that's actually licensed to do this stuff.
Yeah. And one of the things I was listening to a talk, it was by Mufti Mengsab today, and one of the things which he said, obviously this goes back to dating, but at the same time, this also relates to marriage, pre-marriage, marriage, so on and so forth, where he said one of the things which people misunderstand about dating is they think that going on multiple dates will fix your problems and they'll teach you your compatibility issues. He's like, but you have to understand when a person goes on a date, they try to look their best. He's like, they're going to put on their nicest clothes. They're going to put on their nicest face. They're going to put on their nicest perfume. And they're going to go into the date. And he's like, if anybody has a few white hairs, they're going to color those white hairs. He's like, so you're going into this artificial environment thinking that you're creating compatibility. So if you go into a marriage or even premarital counseling with discussion like, oh, well, what do you think the answer to this should be? And so on and so forth, where you're, putting this Band-Aid on a real issue and you're not trying to solve it. And then when the issues really come up, it's like a volcano, they all burst because you tried to play beforehand and try to make yourself compatible instead of actually finding out what your problems are and trying to fix them.
Yeah.
And do you have any opinion on this?
I absolutely. Oh, I've got a lot of opinions. I'm a guy with a lot of opinions. I don't mean anything, but there's just a lot of opinions. But no, absolutely. The thing is, like, this is something that one of my good friends gave me this advice as well, right? A long time ago, that all these things that whatever, even in dating or whatever, right? You're not seeing them without the makeup, right? And I'm not talking about the literal makeup, right? I'm talking about you're not seeing them you're not seeing them at their natural, right? At their real. Yeah. Right? This is why the hadith, right? The Prophet ﷺ said, "As-safru qit'atun min al-adab," that the safar is a small piece of punishment, right? And you get to if you really want to know a person, you travel with them, because in travel, and not just like travel from here to to go get gyros 20 minutes away. That's not travel. I'm talking about travel, right? And I say go for umrah with them. Right? Go for umrah with someone and you'll find out, right? Well, who they really are. Not promoting that between guys and girls to go, but right.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer. People do that too, but you're seeing a very, very artificial thing, and this is why Istikhara and asking Allah Subhanahu wa Taala for help is vital. Istikhara is like it becomes like a ritualistic thing now, right? And there's a lot of misconception around istikhara as well. People think that for istikhara is, I'm going to see a dream, or I'm going to see way out in the distance, I'm going to see some light, right? It's going to tell me, go this way, right? That's not what istikhara is. What is istikhara? Look at the dua of istikhara, right? In the dua of istikhara, you're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're not asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, show me, right? In a dream, I want to see in my dream my Layla, right? In front of me. That's not istikhara. Istikhara is you are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Allah, whatever is good for me, allow that to happen. And whatever is not good for me, make that go away from me. So istikhara, you're not necessarily going to feel something. You're not necessarily going to see something. Right? Istikhara, the point of istikhara is you do istikhara. Right? You do istikhara, you make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you decide, you constantly do it, right? And then wherever your heart is settled, you can move forward with that. Why? Because that is your direction, and at the very least, you've made dua for it as well. People skip that. People be like, oh yeah, I had my chachas, uncles, babas, uncles, Qari Sahib in some gaon, sitting on a mountain, do istikhara. Istikhara has to be done by the people that are involved. They're the ones that have to do the istikhara.
It's become commercialized though, because many years ago they had that show. I don't know. I think it was Istikhara Pareshaniyon Ka Chutkara, and the guy would he would.
That's an actual show.
That was a show back in the day, and the guy would be sitting behind the curtain. And one of my nannies by relation, she's like, oh yeah, the people would send their question in, and Imam Saab, I guess he would take like a 15-second nap, and he would be like, "Ha, aapke sawal ka ye istikhara hai." This is what happened.
Oh my God.
And so it became commercialized, and so people really they really oh, I can ask Maulana Numaan or Shaykh Numaan, can you do my istikhara? And you take like a little nap and come back, yeah, I saw your istikhara. And on Layla and Majnun stories are quite interesting, where I remember one from Maulana Makki Hijazi Sahib's bayan, where he was like, Majnu was kissing the foot of the dog, and the people asked, why are you doing this? He said, I cannot touch Layla, but this dog's foot touched the foot of Layla, so I am in a sense actually kissing Layla because I'm kissing his foot. So Layla and Majnun is a very romantic tale.
Yeah. But the thing is though, even at that, right? Even in that story, think about this. That even that Majnun was so infatuated with Layla, but he did not want to break the hudud of Allah.
Subhanallah.
Right? Think about that. That even in that scenario, right? Even in that scenario where you are so infatuated, you are so in love, but you don't want to break the laws of Allah. That's besides you're not condoning the act of kissing a dog in any way, but you think about that's something to marvel at. That's if it's a real story, it's like that's iman, right? That's like right. It's maybe misplaced iman, but it's iman.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's what's it called, when it comes to like premarital counseling and stuff, it's vital. It really is important and needs to be given importance as well. And not just a brush under the rug. Yeah. By the way, I want to clarify something that I said earlier.
Yes, go ahead.
I said about that the parents should stay the heck out of the marriage, right? What I meant by that is that parents should not meddle in the person's in someone's marriage, right? When they start meddling in someone's marriage, that's when the problems come.
There was actually a comment that came in support of your statement about 10 minutes ago. I have to respectfully agree with Shaykh here. I think it depends on the point of view of the parents have. I know that parents can be indispensable resources to helping smooth out problems. But, he was obviously agreement that what you're saying is absolutely right. When meddling happens in anybody's marriage, whether it be parents or somebody outside, some chacha mama, the results are never good.
But the problem with the parents is it's much, much harder to dispel it then.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially if you've ingrained them so much in the beginning.
Yeah.
Right? It becomes so, because they'll be like, what do you mean? You used to ask me so many things, right? She's changed you. You used to ask me what car to buy. She's changed you. right? And the mom's like do praying tahajjud to make badua against your wife, then right. So it becomes a problem, right?
Yeah.
Meddling, it becomes it's a bitter pill to swallow in most scenarios, because parent, once again it goes back to that idea that boys are never, because parents most of the time they're not going to meddle into their daughters' marriages,
Yeah.
especially in our culture,
Yeah.
right? But their boys' marriages, they're they're third wheel. Right? It's like, yeah, husband, wife, and me. Right?
This was actually a question somebody sent, but you answered without me asking.
Yeah. So parents have to be very mindful of this of this stuff, right?
So I'm gonna ask you one more question, and then we're gonna get some wisdom from you, and we're gonna wrap up, inshallah. So
Wisdom. Oh man, I think we
yeah,
came to the wrong place for wisdom.
it's all good. There's a brother. He's messaging me now ever since I told him you're an Eagles fan, and he said best fans in the world. So
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
So
We,
what's it
we
called?
we kick horses and climb poles.
Well, what's it called? Next question: when should a person feel like he is, Islamically, financially, mentally responsible for marriage? I know this varies from person to person, but on a very base level, what would be some advice in regards to this?
I think as long as a person has their head on straight, right? Meaning that they're not financially stupid, right? They're not going out and buying a new TV every year, or making stupid purchases, and they have some financial literacy to some
Yeah,
extent at the very least, right?
yeah,
They know what a W-2 is, right? Okay. That's financially speaking. And religiously speaking, religiously speaking, you should also be aware of what the responsibility of what's the responsibility of marriage are, right? And you should be aware that it's not just fun and games that you're going to be doing. There's going to be real challenges there. There's going to be real struggles that you have to deal with, and how is it that you will be able to do it? So I think what it boils down to is maturity, financial maturity, spiritual maturity, religious maturity, physical obviously maturity. All those things have to be in place. And then the last thing would be is get your act right, get your act straight, right? If what do they say, that before buying a house, don't apply for any loans for 6 to 8 months, right? Something like that.
yeah,
So similarly, you're about to apply for marriage, meaning you're about to try to get married. At least start straightening up the last 6 to 8 months, right?
yeah,
Even whatever, we all have a past, right?
yeah,
If you do tawbah from the past, right, you're removing it, you're getting rid of it, and why not? And then there's no need for you to even bring it up afterwards, as long as you've actually legitimately let go of it.
yeah,
So start to shed the bad habits. Like some people have habits of pornography, right?
yeah,
Those aren't going to stop, because your wife or your spouse, your husband or your wife, is not always going to be there
yeah,
for you to satisfy your needs. So if your source before was pornography, it's going to continue to be that.
yeah,
And then the problem is, it's going to cause other issues, because you're not going to get in your intimate life what you are seeing on the screen.
yeah.
So that's going to become even more problematic, right? There's this one dua that I'm forgetting which Shaykh used to make. He he used to make this dua that in Urdu, but in the English translation would be that, Ya Allah, allow me to keep my eyes limited, okay, to what is halal for me.
Yeah.
Right? That allow me to allow my eyes not to wander to masiwa, right, to that which is beyond what is permissible, right?
Subhanallah.
So it really comes down to maturity. That's a big one.
I see.
And not just like you wake up in the morning, like, all right, good to go. And don't get, and another important thing is, just because all your friends and stuff are doing it doesn't mean that you're ready.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of times that becomes like a social norm. Some people, they get ready a little earlier. Some people, they get ready a little bit later. For every person is different. But you shouldn't unnecessarily delay it either. Right? Unnecessarily delaying it is, you're just asking for trouble, because you have biological needs, and if they're not going to get settled in halal, you will try to fulfill them in a haram way. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ said that a person is rewarded even if they are intimate with their spouse. And the Sahaba were like, Ya Rasulullah, really? Even in that, and the Prophet ﷺ said, well, look at it this way. If you were to satisfy your needs in a haram way, would you get sin? Yes. And the Prophet ﷺ responded, then if you're satisfying your needs in a halal and a permissible way, which actually is a form of worship even, why wouldn't you get rewarded for it? Right?
Subhanallah.
So it all really comes down to maturity, right? And you don't have to be, Shah Waliullah mature, but you just have to be mature.
I think that's wisdom enough. I'm not gonna have to ask you for wisdom. That was enough wisdom that you just have to mature enough. Um, but Jazakallah khair for your time, and for going into really the depth of the topic. And I feel like you had a lot more to go into, but you were trying to be conservative at the same time, not to go on like 15 minutes on one topic. But Jazakallah khair for your time. I really appreciated you coming on and letting दिल की भड़ास निकाला, letting the basically what was in the heart come out. I really appreciated that.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah for having me. Whatever was good was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever, and I'm sure there was a lot of just me blabbering. That's from me and Shaitan. So, obviously, yeah. Whoever
Jazakallah
that,
khair.
yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead. You were saying something.
I was saying, whoever that brother is, that's an Eagles fan. He has some good connections. MashaAllah.
Alhamdulillah. He's a great brother. He helps us out every night.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. See,
Alhamdulillah.
good people.
Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair for joining me, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of us and protect your family and my family and all those who are sick and all those who have passed away. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive them for their sins and make their qabr easy for them. Jazakallah khair.
Ameen.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.